Hi everyone, welcome to Essie Cooks. In this video, we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to take you shopping with me and we are going to go through all the meals that we can make on an extreme dirt cheap budget of $40. So I'm going to be going through and comparing all the prices and showing you what you can do. Now, if you're in the US, this is going to cost you even less than $40 to make all of this food because the prices and everything tend to be a lot better at the budget stores. Now, I did use a few spices from home. So I used a little bit of soy sauce and some dry seasonings like chili powder, oregano, cumin, just some different dry spices from home. But the whole idea with this and this being on an extreme budget is that you can use what you do have at home. I used maybe a little bit of butter, a little bit of oil. Those are the kind of things that are not included in this shop that I did use in the recipes, just to let you know for that. But we are going to make these recipes as healthy as possible on this budget, and we are also going to make them as delicious as we possibly can. So I had this video inspired by Julia Pacheco. I saw her video. I think hers was like $15 for 40 meals, which is, wow, so impressive. But the prices are better in the US. So we did some meal prepping and we made some incredible meals with less than $40. So we're going to see if I can actually do this at the grocery store, actually make some really good tasting food under the $40 mark, like I said, with a few extra spices and seasonings and things from home. So here's an example of a few of the things that we made, but just feel free to get creative with this. And this was actually so good on a budget. Okay, we are going to be shopping at No Frills because this is definitely one of the discount grocery stores here in Canada. Walmart is really great as a discount store as well, but this one was handy and I walked here. So let's get started. I'm going to walk right in and grab my basket. That's a tip for shopping. Use a basket, you will definitely spend less. Now, before we get started, I want to show you, this is how you can tell the actual price of something and easily compare it to the price of something similar. Look to see how much they charge per 100 grams, and then you'll know if you're getting a better price or a better deal. Okay, so now I'm going to grab a bag of carrots because I know those are healthy and they are always cheap. So I'm grabbing a 2-pound bag of carrots. This is just a guideline, you can grab whatever, but I'm going to show you what I make from what I could find that was the cheapest in the store and as healthy as I possibly can. We're going to try to cook really healthy on this $40 budget. Let's see if we can do this. All right, next up, I know I'm going to need garlic because it's always like 50 cents a head. It's so cheap. It adds so much flavor. It's so good for your immune system. Definitely going to be adding in a head of garlic. And next, I'm going to grab some wraps. Now, I was going to get these whole wheat wraps, which obviously I would usually prefer, but per 100 grams, it was actually a lot cheaper for me to get these ones, which come with 10 wraps. So I'm going to get the 10 wraps instead because of the price difference. Now, it looks like it's more when you look at the price, but when you check the per 100 grams, you see that actually you're getting more for your money with this one because you're getting 10 wraps. Just great. Okay, next up we are going to hit the pasta aisle here. Pasta is always so cheap and it actually contains protein. If you check it out, there's durum wheat or semolina flour in there, so there's actually protein. If you pair it with some peas or something like that or some broccoli, you actually get in a decent amount of protein when you have a pasta dish, which sounds crazy, I know. So even look at the no-name brand is $1.99. This other brand is only $1.69 for like a huge thing. Check and make sure you can check what you've got going on, but I am definitely going to be able to make a couple of meals out of that. So I'm going to grab the rotini and then I'm going to check for some pasta sauce because I want to make a marinara as well. Now, normally I would get like, say, the Primo or I would get the Hunt's, but it's a lot better deal here to get the tomato sauce no-name brand. I haven't tried it before. I'm hoping it's good. I've got to stick to this $40 budget, so I'm going to grab that. Now, yay, Unico brand is actually even cheaper by 1 cent than the no-name brand. I don't know, is it really better or is the no-name brand just a different label? I have no idea, but I always think it tastes better. So I'm happy to get the Unico tomato paste. I'm going to definitely be using that in a lot of dishes because tomato paste is another thing that adds a lot of flavor to dishes. Now, I'm sure you were guessing we are going to be getting beans. You know, beans and rice is always that classic, like really affordable meal, but here we are and we are going to pick up some dried beans of choice. When they're in the can, they are a little bit pricier. You save actually quite a bit. You get so much for your money when you buy dried lentils. Like I said, if you're in the States, maybe this bag is like $1.50 or $2. Here it's $3.79. Check per 100 grams. Now, I wanted pinto beans, couldn't find them. Totally fine. I am going to use black turtle beans. I don't know why black turtle beans, they're just black beans. Okay, on to the next. Now we need some tomatoes because I'm definitely going to be making a chili with those black beans, and so I'm going to need some tomatoes for that. Chili is just the best budget meal ever. It's so flavorful. So I got crushed tomatoes because those were on sale, which I was excited. Another name brand on sale. Yay. A large can of crushed tomatoes. And then now off to the frozen vegetables section. So I was planning on getting some broccoli. That was kind of what I had in my mind. That was what I saw Julia Pacheco do on her video. I loved her ideas. Like I said, make sure to check out her videos too, because that's what inspired this video in the first place. But the broccoli was like, I don't know, $4 or $5 a bag, and it didn't have nearly as much as these frozen peas. So I'm going to be switching it out for these frozen peas. Both peas and broccoli do contain small amounts of protein. Peas actually have a decent amount of protein in them, so like, why not add a little protein boost in there? We're doing our best with that $40 budget. So look at that. That was $4, and it's a smaller amount. That was only 500 grams. And yeah, so I got more grams in this for $3. Amazing. Now we need an onion for flavor. So pick out whatever the cheapest one is that you can find. I'm going to get one large onion. I'm going to divide it, into sections so I can use it in a bunch of different dishes for extra flavor and, of course, health benefits. Now the next thing that's always cheap at the grocery store is potatoes. And potatoes are really good for you as well. So we are going to pick out some beautiful russet potatoes here. I'm going to be checking these are BC Fresh, even better. Like, when you can get local and save, come on, why wouldn't you? So I've got that big bag of russet potatoes there, always going for the cheapest one, usually russet. Now, if you do need to buy any spices, it's a lot cheaper to buy them in little bags like this, or you can even get them from the bulk store. You can get tiny little amounts in the bulk store to get just what you need, instead of buying them like this in the shakers, which is a lot more expensive. So that's another tip. If there are any spices that you need to buy, there you go. Now I found this 99 cents on 50% off. 50 cents. Nothing in Canada is 50 cents anymore. I was so happy to find this. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be using that. Plus, I just love a baguette. I pretty much never go to the store without leave without a baguette. Now I wanted to add a little more protein, so of course we're going to be getting protein from those beans. That's going to be our main source, but something a little bit extra, something a little bit more bulk, even though we're just really focusing on budget. I want to sneak some protein in, so I got a brick of extra firm tofu. Extra firm tofu is going to have a lot more protein than the medium firm, even though it's a bit more expensive. Now I think I have enough in my budget to add a bag of greens. I feel like dark leafy greens are so important. I'm hoping they will fit into the budget. All right, here we go. Can you believe it? $36.82. I was so happy with myself. I couldn't believe I actually made it. Let's get cooking. Okay, I know that was a bit fast. I was trying not to disturb anybody in the store with my filming. And here we go. I'm going to show you everything I got again in case you missed something. So I got a large bag of rotini pasta. You can use any pasta noodles. I got this bag of dried black beans. I got 2 pounds of carrots. I got this bag of frozen green peas. I got a large can of tomato sauce. I got a large can of crushed tomatoes. I got 1 regular size can of tomato paste. All these things are going to add so much flavor. It's going to be amazing. 1 head of garlic. I got 10 tortilla wraps. And we'll check out the other bag, see what else I got here. I got this beautiful 50-cent baguette, amazing. And I got a nice large bag of green spinach. I can make spinach salads, or I can add that into my chili, or I can add it wherever. I got to figure out what I'm going to do with all these potatoes. I'm going to make something delicious with those. A large bag of russet potatoes. I got a nice brick of tofu. I should have gotten two bricks of tofu because it would have fit into the budget. But I guess if we're accounting for the cost of spices and things like that, this will all still come under $40. And I got that beautiful yellow onion. I think that's it, right? Yes, and here's the receipt to prove it. I have the receipts. So $36.82, and you can see the price of everything there. So everything was really affordable. I mean, one of the most expensive things I got was the potatoes, but honestly, that's going to really bulk up our meals, and they're going to be super filling, nutritious, and delicious. So you get a lot for that $5.99 with potatoes. And like I said, if you're in the States, it's going to be even less than this, because I find that when I see the grocery prices in the States, they're a lot more affordable, at least as far as I see at a budget grocery store. I'm not talking Erewhon, I'm talking, Walmart, places like that. So the first thing I'm doing here, because this 50% off baguette is obviously not fresh. Actually, that grocery store doesn't even have a bakery, so I'm guessing they got it 2 days old from another store, but that's okay. This is great. We're gonna make it taste really good by using a little bit of vegan butter, whatever you have, oil. And we're gonna take about 2 cloves of this garlic that we bought. And I'm gonna make garlic toast and put it right into the freezer. Now it's not gonna be pre-cooked. I'm just gonna put, the garlic in here. I'm gonna put it on here and wrap these 2 in foil because I'm gonna have them on 2 separate occasions. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that quick. Okay, so look, that's actually quite a bit of garlic that we got just from 2 cloves. We are gonna stretch this garlic clove into a lot of meals, and honestly, just a few cloves adds a lot of flavor. So I'm gonna mix this all together. If you don't have butter, don't worry. You can just freeze a baguette in the freezer and pull it out when you're ready to serve. Or if you don't have a baguette at all, that's totally fine. I mean, you can use any bread or no bread at all. Now, because this is going to be a bit more of a crusty sort of bread situation, it's going to go so good in a chili that I'm going to make from a few of the ingredients that I got. It can really dunk in there and soak in the bread and soften it back up, which it's going to be so good. So yeah, just a quick tip there. And now let's wrap this in foil. Now, the only reason I wrapped them up in foil is so that I can pull it out and put it directly in the oven like this, and it's going to heat through so beautifully. But if you're not making a garlic toast out of it, there is no need for the foil, but that's just going to be nice and convenient for me. Now, the next step I find when you're working with dry black beans like this, I like to soak them for at least 4 hours. To be honest, I find it cooks them so much better, makes them easier to digest, especially if you're not used to eating a lot of beans. We're going to be eating a lot of beans this week, so definitely keep that in mind. Soaking them is going to aid in digestion. It helps them cook faster, more evenly, things like that. So I'm actually going to soak them overnight. Some people like to remove any half beans that they find in the dried beans, but for me, I'm actually going to throw them back in. I'm not wasting anything because this is a budget meal prep, so I want to make sure I'm using all of them, but if you want, you can remove any of the broken beans out there. We do want to file through and check for, sometimes there can be a little bit of dirt, there can be a little twig, a little rock, things like that. So you definitely want to file through and look for those. Don't worry, when we're soaking them, we are going to be washing them and filing through them again afterwards. So keep that in mind. You don't have to be too careful on your first pass through because they're going to soak, we're going to wash them, and we're going to check for anything else after. So I'm just going to cover those in water. You want to cover them in quite a bit of water. They do puff up when you leave them overnight. So make sure you've got a generous amount of water in there. Now don't worry if they turn a bit purple. That's very natural. That purple color, the same thing you're going to find in red cabbage, is so healthy for you. It's like an antioxidant, delicious, amazing, so good for you. Black beans are so good for your health. So yeah, check that out. Check out that gorgeous color. The camera is really picking that up as well, even more than I was seeing it in person, which is great. So those have been soaking overnight now. I'm going to rinse them really thoroughly. And like I said, I'm going to do a check through, make sure no twigs, nothing like that. I actually had to do 2 batches in here because there were so many beans, which is amazing. I know I'm going to have to freeze some of this stuff, but that is totally fine. I'm loving this. So I'm going to get them a really good rinse and file through them again. So that one beautiful onion that we bought, we're going to be using in a few different recipes. So I just cut that into 4. I'm going to store that in some glass container in the fridge. And I'm going to be using 1/4 of this large yellow onion in with the beans. Now you can just throw the whole piece in like this, but I want to actually eat the onion, and you would pull it out at the end. It just adds a lot of flavor, but I want to actually eat it, so I'm going to dice it up and throw it in. And I'm also going to grab a couple cloves of garlic as well. So I've covered the black beans in water, about 1 inch of water, you can see there. And now we're going to add in our spices and seasonings. So I've got 2 cloves of garlic from that head of garlic that we purchased. I'm gonna add that directly in. You can add them in whole, like same thing with the onion, and we can mash them up later on. And then with the spices and seasonings, like use what you have in the house. You can work with what you have. That's no problem. I have a bunch of bay leaves. I think that's gonna taste really good in there. I'm gonna throw 2 of those in. If you have them, great. If you don't, that's fine. I'm also going to add in a little bit of cumin, chili powder, just for a little bit more flavor in these beans, and some smoked paprika. And I'm going to add in that onion as well. Add in that onion. We're going to boil it all together. We're not going to add any salt or vegetable broth until closer to the end, just so it doesn't interfere with the bean cooking process, but we are definitely going to be seasoning with salt as well. Looks like I'm out of cumin, otherwise I would put it, but the chili powder does have cumin in it, so I'm going to add about a tablespoon of that for some nice flavoring, and a little bit of smoked paprika is so good in here. It adds a lot of depth and flavor. Now I'm just going to bring this to a boil, and then I'm going to reduce it to a simmer until they're cooked. It should be about 45 minutes to an hour, but you're going to want to check them and stir them occasionally. You're going to want to simmer those down uncovered. So we're going to leave this open, and let's go ahead and do that. All right, just give them a stir every once in a while. They are almost there, but we're going to keep cooking them until they are nice and soft, and I'll show you how to check when they're done. Okay, look, it's mostly beans now. There's a little bit of liquid. Do not drain off the liquid, because this is the gold. This is so flavorful. It's going to add a lot of flavor to any of the dishes we're having. You can actually eat this alone with some rice, some bread, whatever you want. And if you want to add some vegetables to it, you can easily add some of that spinach as a side salad, or you can mix it directly in for 1 minute, heat it through, and then you have your vegetables as well. But how you can tell it's done, we're going to grab one bean. It's probably hot. Careful, don't burn yourself. Let that cool, but we're wanting the beans to basically just do that. You want them to easily squish, so you know they're cooked all the way through. We're going to pull out the bay leaves, and we're also going to pull out the garlic and crush that as well. Now if you want, you can add in a little bit of vegetable stock powder, or any stock powder that you have, you know, that powdered kind. And we can also add salt and pepper to taste. So do taste it in this case, because they aren't super like there's flavor in here for sure, but you do need salt to make them taste really delicious. So do make sure you're tasting it, and if it's missing something, you might just need a little bit more salt. We always want to add this at the end so it doesn't affect the cooking process, and so that we can keep the salt content a little bit more flavorful without it being lost into the dish. Now my husband's going to join me, and we're going to do some really fun meal prep with all of these ingredients. And so I'm going to start by making my tofu into almost like a beef crumble substitute. So I'm going to start with a tablespoon or 2 of olive oil, a tablespoon of soy sauce, and putting this all into a bowl. I'm going to mix it all together and put the tofu in. I'm going to put a little bit of smoked paprika, or even chili powder would be good on there as well, about 1 or 2 teaspoons. And I'm going to add some tomato paste from that can that I got earlier. So I'm going to add about 1 heaping tablespoon. We're going to be using this tomato paste in 3 different recipes right now, so just keep that in mind. Don't use it all at once, because we're going to need it for 3 different recipes. Now my husband is on the side here sous chefing, and he is cutting up 2 of those onion sections, finely dicing up the onion. For some reason we can't see. Sorry about that. Now I'm going to stir together that nice marinade for the tofu, give it a really good stir. Then I'm going to grab my block of tofu. That's how it should look. It's very nice and thick and gorgeous like that. If you ended up getting 2 blocks of tofu, you'll just want to double the amount of marinade that we're making here. Now I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees. I am just going to press down on that tofu. I'm not going to fully press it. I'm just going to squeeze out any liquid. I'm going to crumble that up into a nice mince-like texture right into the bowl, because this is going to absorb all of the flavors. Then I'm going to be putting it in the oven for about 30 minutes. I'm going to flip it halfway. Now, keep an eye on it. It may only take 20 minutes. It may take 35. Keep a close eye on it after about 10-15 minutes, just to make sure that it is not burning. So that's all nicely coated. I'm going to throw that directly onto a baking sheet, and I'm going to throw that into the oven at 350. So now you can really see the size, the texture, and it's all coated in that beautiful marinade. So keep an eye on that, and I lightly greased up the baking sheet as well, because I didn't have parchment paper. So throwing that in at 350, set that timer for about 12-15 minutes. Now we pulled out about 8 large carrots, 4 per recipe. For one, I'm finely dicing it, and for the other one, we're just going to be cutting it into coins. So we're going to be making a chili. Yum, so good. I can never get enough of a veg chili. And of course, my dog is going to get a carrot. Oh my goodness, messy. Okay, back to the meal prep. Now we've got a large pot on medium heat. We're gonna add a little bit of oil, whatever you have there. Any oil that you have will work, anything you have in the house. And we're gonna add in 4 of those large carrots that have been diced up like this, nice little bite-sized cubes. And we're gonna add in 1/4 of that yellow onion that was finely diced as well. You saw earlier how I cut that into quarters. And we're going to cook those down for around 3 to 4 minutes on medium heat. Yum. This is just so good. The thing I love about chili too is it's freezer friendly, because maybe you don't want to eat like this all week. Maybe you want to stretch these meals out between a few weeks. Totally fine. Now I added in 2 cloves of the minced garlic. I added in chili powder, cumin powder, smoked paprika. So I'm putting 2 tablespoons of chili powder, a dash of cinnamon, a teaspoon of cumin, and a teaspoon of smoked paprika. So that's the magic spice blend that I have there. But because this is a budget meal prep, feel free to substitute. I also added in some hot chili powder for some heat, which was so delicious. You can adjust this to your own spice preference, and feel free to use the ingredients that you have in your house. That's the whole idea with this. And I'm gonna add in some tomato paste, about 1/4 cup, about 3 heaping tablespoons of that tomato paste. That's also gonna add a lot of flavor to this dish. Tomato paste is just one of those ingredients. For $1, we're getting so much flavor in so many different dishes. Now, that large can of crushed tomatoes that we bought, we're also gonna be adding that in. It's a perfect base for this chili, but if you find diced tomatoes instead, that would also work. This is flexible. Go for what's on sale. See, those are the crushed tomatoes I found that were on sale, and I'm adding 2 cups of water or vegetable broth, whatever you have. So I just swirled it around in the can, add it right in. Veg broth is going to add more flavor. Now, those black beans that we cooked earlier, I'm going to add about 5 cups of them into this chili. Those are the cooked ones with their juices. So I'm just going to keep adding those in. Already, that's going to add so much flavor because those beans already were quite flavorful on their own. Now we're mixing them together with all these chili ingredients. This is so delicious. Like, I can't wait to have this again and again. Yum. Now, those tofu crumbles that we had in the oven are looking beautiful on the top at about 12-15 minutes, but they're not cooked on the other side. So make sure to flip them. Make sure there's space in between them all so they can get nice and crunchy and almost a chewy-like texture, because we're going to be adding half of these into the chili. So we want them to have a nice texture, but we don't want them to burn. Okay, I'm going to allow that to simmer probably for about 15-20 minutes there. Now I'm going to get going on my hidden veggies pasta sauce. So I've got another large pot, medium heat, another 1/4 of that onion, and those 4 large carrots that we had diced up earlier into nice little coins. I'm going to cook those down for around 4 to 5 minutes on medium heat. Then I'm going to add in 2 cloves of minced garlic. We still have garlic left, thank goodness, from that head of garlic. 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning, if you have it. Like I said, some of these seasonings are optional, depends what you have in the house. Now, that large can of tomato sauce that we bought earlier, we're going to add that in. I add just a little bit of water that I swirled around in the can as well, and I'm just going to allow that to simmer for around 20 minutes as well. So make sure you are stirring these, and now I think my tofu crumbles are ready to go in. So I'm going to use only half of them in the chili here. I'm going to add them directly into the chili now that the chili is almost cooked. This is going to add such a nice texture and a little extra boost of flavor and protein. So I love that. And if you had 2 blocks of tofu, like I said, add a whole block in there. It's going to be so good. Definitely try it out. So I'm going to stir that in and allow that to simmer for a few more minutes. Make sure you're stirring. Look, I've got both my hands going. I'm stirring both of my sauces here. Now I've got a little tomato paste left over. So why not put that into the pasta sauce, especially since I added a little bit of water in there. It's going to thicken it back up and give it a little bit more flavor. So I'm going to finish off that can of tomato paste. We are not wasting anything. And look, the chili is thick, beautiful, gorgeous, and ready to go. I mean, you just want to add a little bit of salt and pepper to season. Okay, and now we are back to that pasta sauce. We're going to blend it up so that those carrots are hidden in there, and then we're going to add in salt and pepper. Now you can add chopped spinach in there if you like to. So I know we're not going to be able to eat all of this in the time that it can stay in the fridge, so I am going to freeze some of it. If you're going to be freezing it just 75% full, leave a bit at the top because you don't want your glass jars to explode. So I've got 2 things of the pasta sauce here. I've got these big jars of chili. I know this is enough for 2 people. This is enough for 1 serving of the pasta sauce. This is going to be enough for 2 people as well, likely for some burritos or something. I ran out of jars, so I'm going to be using a plastic bag to freeze some of the leftover. I waited until they were fully cooled before putting it in there. And then I have some more that I'm going to be just filing into the fridge. Okay, look how nice the garlic toast came out using this method. I heated in the oven at 350 for about 15 minutes, and look at the bounce. It's totally looking delicious. Got my beautiful garlic toast. Look at that. You can put any toppings you want. If you have cheese or herbs or sour cream or anything like that, you can put that. But with the bread, look at how good. So I'm going to make sort of a potato skillet, make use of those leftover tofu crumbles. So I grabbed about 6 of those potatoes that we had. I still have quite a few potatoes left. Cut them into cubes, threw them in cold water. I'm going to add a little bit of salt. I'm just going to parboil those for about 10 minutes. So while the potatoes are cooking, I put about 2.5 cups of the frozen peas with a little bit of water. I'm just going to steam those for about 2 to 3 minutes until they're cooked through. Okay, the peas are cooked. I'm just going to strain off any extra water. Then I'm going to add in a little bit of oil and my potatoes. Basically, I wanted my potatoes to be cooked through before I add them in here because I'm just crisping them up in the pan. Now at this point, you can add any seasoning or spices you like. I have some leftover taco seasoning. So I'm going to add that on. That's going to add lots of nice flavor. Probably some salt and pepper, maybe some garlic powder. I mean, you can do any variety of spices here and it's going to be delicious. Good. Now we have these leftover meaty crumbles. So I'm going to add those right in as well. Obviously, because this is a taco sort of style skillet dish, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be so good if you have any cheese or if you have sour cream or if you have guac, but I know this is on a budget, so it's going to be good just like this. But if you have the toppings, add them. I do have the ingredients for a cheese sauce because of a very little small amount of cheese, so I'm going to be making that. If you want the recipe for that, please let me know. It doesn't have to be vegan. You can either make it vegan or not. And finishing touches, I'm just going to add in, you can chop it if you want, a couple handfuls of that spinach that we bought. So this is actually looking to be pretty healthy and pretty delicious. I mean, we have peas and we have that tofu ground crumble for protein. We have healthy carbs from our potatoes. We have greens from the spinach. I'm going to cook that down for a couple minutes until the spinach is wilted, and then it's pretty much ready to go. It's actually turned out so much better than I was expecting. I'm going to season with a little bit of salt and pepper. Look at that. What a nice potato skillet. And this obviously makes at least 4 meals. Look at that. Next up, I'm going to make some burritos with those leftover black beans. So I'm going to add some of the spinach on there. You could cook the spinach in with the beans, but I just threw it on there fresh to keep it nice and simple. I put the beans on without heating them first the first time that I made these, and I would highly recommend heating them up either in the microwave or on the stove before adding them in. It's just going to taste better. And like with any burrito, you add all of your favorite toppings. If you have them, you can add hot sauce, salsa, sour cream, guac, whatever you have, cheese. You could even put some rice or some corn in here if you had that as well. But this is just the simple version made with what we actually had in the house from our budget grocery shop. And it was not bad. I did cover it in hot sauce after to just give it a little something because they're a little bit plain, but honestly pretty good. Now you could just eat it like this, but it tastes so much better if we actually grill it up. So I'm going to wrap this up really nicely. We have 10 of these total, so this is going to make at least, 10 burritos. So I'm going to actually cook those in the pan just for a minute or two per side, just to brown them and close them up. And oh, so much better like that. Personally, I think it's so nice to grill them. And it takes pretty much no effort to do this. These burritos are really fast and easy. You can even save some of these in the freezer as leftovers. So if you want to meal prep them ahead of time, all 10 of them, you can totally do that, and then you have your leftover burritos for later. Okay, I was going to make pasta with peas, a pasta dish, but I have decided I want a pasta salad instead, so I've taken some noodles from that pasta, and we've got some boiling water here, and we're going to make a nice pasta salad with the peas and the spinach and a vinaigrette. So I'm going to cook those pasta noodles al dente, and don't forget to salt that pasta water. Now that my pasta is almost done cooking, it's about 2-3 minutes away from cooking, I'm going to add the peas directly in. I'm going to add quite a few because I have limited veggies to add in here. And I'm going to allow those to cook down with the pasta. Now over here, I have chopped up 2 large handfuls of spinach. So this is going to be a nice greens pasta salad. Now, just in case you didn't know, because a while ago, I didn't know this. 1/9 of the package, which is, we're probably eating more than that per serving, 15 grams of protein. So you're probably going to get 20 grams of protein per serving just from the pasta alone, which is great. Now, I know there's like obviously better sources of protein than pasta. That is from the durum wheat semolina. It's actually a whole grain. So yeah, not bad. Obviously, yeah, there are better sources of protein, but we're getting a decent amount of protein just from the pasta, which is really great. And then we add in the greens. It's not terribly unhealthy, right? We're doing as healthy as we can on a budget and trying to make it taste good. Okay, now I'm gonna rinse the pasta noodles under some cold water just to stop the cooking process. Vinny, do you want one? I'm gonna add in my chopped spinach, and I'm just gonna toss it in a simple vinaigrette. You can use any salad dressing you like. I just made one up quick with some ingredients I had at home here, and I'm gonna toss it up. This is actually looking really good. It ended up making even more than expected, and we got to enjoy some leftovers for lunch the next day. Okay, now I'm gonna make some pasta marinara with that hidden veggie sauce that we made earlier that had the carrots in it. Now I am gonna add some spinach into it as well. Don't forget to salt that water. Now before I strain my noodles, I'm just gonna save a little bit of that pasta reserve water off to the side so I can add that in with my sauce. All right, now I'm gonna add in however much of that sauce that you wanna add in here. Give that a good stir. If you like it really saucy, you can add more sauce to it. Gonna mix in a little bit of that pasta reserve water from earlier. Just gonna cook that down for another minute. Now you could serve it just like this. You could add a little bit of cheese, a little bit of oil, a little bit of butter, whatever you have if you want. Season it up. But what I'm gonna do here, I want a few more veggies, and I don't feel like making a salad, quite honestly, so I'm gonna use a bunch of that spinach from earlier and cook it right in so that we have lots of greens in there. I know this looks like a lot, but honestly, I still have quite a bit of spinach left, to the point where I am going to probably freeze the rest of this bag and then just add it into my chili and things like that later on as frozen spinach, because I don't want the rest to go bad. I'm also going to add some hot chili flakes in here for a little extra flavor. And look how nicely all that spinach cooked down. Yum. So I actually ended up cooking the garlic toast with this as well. It's going to go perfectly with the pasta. Okay, this was the final meal that I made. Other than this, what I ended up doing was I actually just ate those same meals that I showed you before, including this one. Just kept eating leftovers or the same recipes that I showed you before. This did make about 40 meals for the serving sizes that I like, but it totally depends on how hungry you are. Are you eating it for lunch, for dinner? Do you need, a bigger serving size? Like, it wouldn't make 40 servings for my husband, for example. The whole idea here is we are making a big batch for only $40. Like I said, even less if you're living in the US, which is amazing. This is really budget friendly, and the dogs were barking, so I just had to go check on them quick. Now, what I did with the potatoes is I poked a bunch of holes in them with forks just to let all of the air out. Now I'm going to massage with a little bit of oil, a little bit of garlic powder, a little bit of salt and pepper on each of those potatoes. I'm going to cover them in foil, and I'm going to throw them into the oven at 400 degrees for 1 hour, maybe less. I would check on them half hour. I flipped them around. It did take about 1 hour total to bake these potatoes, but I had so many nice leftovers, which was amazing. And I heated up some of that leftover chili, which we had so much chili, which was so great for this as well. And I put that right on top of the baked potato. You can add any toppings you like, sour cream, cheese, whatever you might have. green onions, chives. It's going to be so good on top of there, but it's also good just like this. Now, another thing you can do is you can also put your leftover chili on top of pasta noodles and make like a chili kind of pasta, which is really delicious too. Look how good this turned out. So yeah, after this, that's what I did. I just kept eating the leftovers. It made so much food on this budget. I was actually so surprised and impressed with how good everything tasted and turned out. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. If you want to see more videos like this, just make sure you hit that like and subscribe.